My name is Greet. I'm from the Netherlands.
Wait, how do you say it?
Yeah, you write it as greed, as a meaning greed, and it's Greet. Do you wanna?
Oh,
Sure, start.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Mika Epstein. I'm from Let's Watch TV. Batwoman is one of our shows that we call our favorite shows, where all the editorial staff sits down and says, that one. And when you took over the role, I am a huge Batwoman fan, like I have the original run of the comics, and immediately I was super excited. I went and looked up other things that you've done, and I thought, this has the potential to change things and elevate the story of Batwoman from showing one minority, which is Jewish lesbian, to showing another minority that is even more important today. How did you feel getting to be this kind of iconic role and take it to that next step where you're getting to be Batwoman for a whole generation of people?
As an artist, we're just very grateful for the opportunity to work. Like, that's the first step. The first step is just being grateful for the opportunity to work. I think that we get these opportunities and we always just wish we could do it. And so we give it our all, but really it's just a wish or a manifestation or a dream, And for me, what has always been important is being able to do something for my community while also doing what I love. I don't think that there should be a separation. I don't think there should be a separation for my spirituality. I don't think there should be a separation for what I do for a living, and I don't think there should be a separation for what I do for my community. I think they all can coexist within each other, and that is what this show did for me. It checked all three of those boxes in this really beautiful way. And so now I get to come to events like this and see the reflection of my character in all of these different people. And to me, I was asked yesterday when I was leaving a convention, we were at the airport, and the guy said, do you like being an actor? And I listened to myself respond as though it wasn't me responding. And I said, I love it. I love it. I get to do what I love. And the way it affects people is something that it's a feeling that it just cannot be described. To hear the stories, the genuine stories. And I interact. If you're following me on Twitter, I constantly interact. If you at me, I will at you back. And just hearing the stories, it's so motivating. And to know that it's strictly just because I love to do my art. I think that's a blessing. I didn't go into the role thinking that I was doing something monumental. I just went into it because I love the art. And it just so happens that I check a lot of the boxes of the character. That wasn't what I thought I was doing, but to see something monumental happen from it was really beautiful, really, really honoring.
In Pink News 2021, you said that the representation you are now giving young people would have had a huge impact on you growing up, and that young people figuring out their identity can now see a superhero that represents them. And how does it feel to be that person?
That's cool.
I bet it is.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That's really cool. I don't know, y'all. It's so crazy because you can get any kind of role. So to get a role that makes this kind of impact, it almost takes away words, because I could have gotten any role that would have taken me out of the running to even be Batwoman. Because at the time I was auditioning, God Friended Me had ended, and we were doing auditions all the way up until we got Batwoman. And so I always look at that as a reminder to just keep going, because when one door closes, it just gives space for another door to open that might be the door for you. So to know that I am that representation, to know that those doors close so that I could become that representation, I think that's so weird and so cool. And growing up, I didn't see my representation that I saw black female actresses, but I didn't get to see a black female superhero other than Storm. And so, which I would love to be Storm, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there,
Just putting it out there, yeah.
Yes, please.
But yeah, I didn't get to see black female superheroes. And that's not just about being black, that's not just about being queer, that's not just about being a superhero. I think that's also about showing strong women that we didn't get to see a lot of growing up. It's always like a woman has to need help, and we need a man to come help us. And so it's kind of cool, like being upstairs and just like being able to meet everyone. It just shows the strength of the femininity, regardless of how you identify. Just the strength of the feminine is just something that I think that is very understated in film and television. And I love that I get to tell a story that shows it.
I'm wondering if you could speak to the importance of queer Black representation and your character's relationship with Sophie, because I think that's something that we don't see enough of on TV.
Yeah, I think the importance, again, you're talking about people being able to see themselves, and I think the moment you see yourself, you believe you can do it. You know, otherwise it feels like an idea. But the moment you see someone that looks like you, like, it's like the first Black president, right? It just didn't seem like it could ever happen. It almost felt like it was just like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And then the moment it happened, it's like little Black kids can literally grow up saying, there's a chance I can actually be the president. And it doesn't matter what race I am. And so I think that, you know, everything that my character represents is a community that felt like they couldn't be. And now that they've seen it, they can see that they can be it. And I love to be able to tell that story. And then, you know, when we started this journey, I was told that Sophie and Ryan were not going to get together. And so when third season started happening and that started happening, I thought that that was so powerful to see two Black women in love. We never see that, ever. And then it's your lead. It's not like it's like these two side characters that they barely develop the story for, because that's another thing that they do to our characters. They throw us as sidekicks or, you know, supporting characters, but not as like the lead romance in a hit television series. And so to watch that and to watch the impact that that made, and to see so many people feel like they see their relationship in our relationship, I think was really beautiful. And it was really beautiful to see Black skin on Black skin like that. Like, that seems small, but it's not common for us, especially like major networks. So to see that was like really powerful. One of my favorite movies is Love Jones, and there's this scene where like you see Nia Long's skin complexion against Taye Diggs, Lorenz Tate's complexion, and it's just like you don't see that. You just don't. It's not a very common thing in projects that are shot well, that have a high budget, that have, you know, high viewership, and to be able to do that, I love that. I think that that specific episode that we're talking about is an episode that will go down in history for being able to show the beginning of that kind of representation.
I guess a quick follow-up question. Do you know if your characters got together kind of like as a result of fans and like fan speculation or fans sort of asking for it? I know that that's happened.
I don't think so. Caroline's not that kind of person. I think that it kind of started to become an inevitable thing. And it's something that I think the writers wanted to see. You really kind of wanted to see these two women love each other, you know? And I think that it might slightly be a little bit my fault, because when Eric Wallace from The Flash called me before the crossover episode, he was like, so, you know, I'm down to do whatever you want to do. Like, you know, are you and Sophie together in this make-believe world? And I was like, well, it's make-believe, sure, let's be together. That was actually my decision. I was like, yeah, they're married. Maybe they're dealing with trying to have a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I just said it like that. And then we started our season after I had already said that. So it might be a little bit because of that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you for that. we went apeshit. We batched it.
I love it.
So you've kind of briefly touched on this, but how have you seen representation specifically of queer Black people change in mainstream media over the last few years?
I didn't for a long time. Literally, it was probably like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And my first time really seeing it was Pose. Pose is huge for me personally, because it was a community I didn't get to know a lot about growing up. And to be able to see just, oh my God, I fell in love. I watched that show so much.
That is another show we love.
I'm obsessed. I was so heartbroken when it ended, but I'm super excited for the actors, because now they get to go spread that magic in other places. But that for me was the beginning of seeing beautiful ethnic representation in our community. Getting able to hear a story that hadn't been told authentically, because they had writers that were representation of the show itself. And also in showrunners and directors, like Janet was able to direct a few episodes, also leading the writing room. So getting able to be able to know that you're hearing a story and it's authentic. I think that when you're learning about things that you may not know about, the hardest part is you think you're learning it and you're not. It's not that community that's telling the story. It's like a cis white man telling the story, and it's like, how do you really know, you know? Like, so I think that having true representation in the writer's room, having true representation behind the scenes gives the authenticity that these projects need, so that way people can truly learn the real story. And that show opened that door for me.
I have a bit of a simpler question. Sorry. No, I would just really want to know, what does it feel like to put on the bat suit, both physically and mentally?
So physically, it's a lot of work.
Yeah?
It's a lot of work. The first season, I needed people to help me, and then towards like the mid part of that, towards the end of that season, I wanted to be able to do it myself because they started to make me. Yes, Jace. Hold on, I see it's your sneakers. Okay, sorry.
They're new. Oh, do we have the same ones? Oh, we should take a picture of that later. No.
I wanted to change that because it was almost like a here or there type of situation where it was like, hey, if it's going to take that long, then you won't be able to do your own stunt for this shot. And it was one of those situations. There was an episode where we did the Candy Lady episode, and the kid is getting ready to shoot Dougray's character, and I stop him, and I fly out of the scene, and they were going to use my amazing stunt double Aisha out. They were going to pull her out, and I'm like, no, it's important that the camera shows Ryan's eyes in this moment because it's a connection. Like, I don't want it to all of a sudden flip to her back. Like, as she leaves, this represents a kid who is a part of her community seeing a superhero that cares about him, that has also been through what he's been through. I want to be that person. And they're like, oh no, it takes too long for you to get gacked up. And I was like, we got to figure this out. And then I took it off and I quickly put it back on. I'm like, oh, I can do it. I can do it now. And then from that point on, I was able to put the suit on myself. So it's still a lot of work because it's a lot of squeezing and like, you know.
What's the material? Is it?
It's like a dive suit. Like it's. Huh?
Neoprene?
I guess. I don't know. But it's like, it feels like it's kind of like rubber, leatherish type, but it doesn't retain temperature. So it's cold or it's hot. Like, it's either or. And you're never comfortable. So that's the feel. And then mentally, you immediately feel like a superhero because it has a lot of wiring in it. So, like, how I'm sitting like this, I would have to sit like this. Like, I naturally have to stand tall. Plus, it's like, we shoot a lot in downtown Vancouver, and these kids are outside. So it's like, okay, let me walk like a superhero. So I don't want to mess up anybody's, like, depiction of what a superhero is based off of how I'm carrying myself.
I'm curious what kind of stories you've heard from the fans about the impact of the show.
So many.
Yeah.
So
What are
many.
Some of your favorites?
Some of my favorite, it's funny because I've heard it from both shows. Even God Friended Me, because my character was gay on God Friended Me. That being a religious show, and people who had parents that were religious needed to be able to explain to their parents who they are. And they felt like Allie's conversation with Reverend Finer helped guide them in their conversation with their parents. And then for Ryan, what I love about Ryan is Ryan didn't have a trauma story. A lot of times they tell queer stories and it's like they're just coming out of this like very traumatic, life-changing situation that makes it where they have to then go through a period of shame and guilt. And Ryan didn't have that. You really got to kind of just see this person be who they are. And I think that was really powerful for a lot of people to see that can exist, and to show their parents that it can exist, and to show their family members and their loved ones that it can exist. So some of the stories that I heard, I know a lot was the representation of Sophie and Ryan. So some black women telling me how they feel like their love was shown on that show. That was really powerful because that's a huge community. You hire a black queer actress to play a black queer role, you're going to attract a lot of black queer women. And it's one thing, I don't care what race you put me with, but it's one thing to see her have a relationship with another woman that's of a different race, but then to see her have a relationship with a woman that is of her race, like that was very powerful. I think that we were in it and we just did it, and it's just like I'm working with Megan every day, so it doesn't really change anything for us. But it's like culturally, that was a very powerful move, and really honestly, that was Caroline. I don't know. I feel like she doesn't get the credit that I think I should be hearing more. Like I hear a lot when it comes to me, or I hear a lot when it comes to Megan. Caroline, she's the one who hired me. She chose me. She could have chosen anyone. You know, I tested against other people. She could have chosen anyone. She could have gone any kind of way. She could have hired a white actress. She's the one who asked for Ryan Wilder. The network could have said, hey, let's stick to just recasting a Kate. You know, these are all Caroline taking these chances, and I don't think that she's gotten the credit for really like spearheading what we are all impacted by, you know. And so just like her choosing to make Sophie and Ryan fall in love, that was her choice. She was an amazing showrunner. So I just want to give her credit, because a lot of what we're talking about, this shift and this change and this impact on culture, started from here, and it was Caroline.
So some of your scenes take place in the hold up. Oh,
Yeah.
I was wondering, what queer artists would your character listen to?
Kaylani. But then I wonder if it's just me. That's just like Kaylani. I'm gonna give it to Kaylani.
There should be a Kalani theme party at the hold up.
It should, 100%.
Everybody's invited. Yeah.
Everyone's invited, especially Kaylani.
Yes.
How does it feel to know that you're in comic books now?
That's so cool. That's epic. It's really, I grew up as a comic book fan. So to know, and I don't feel like it's me in comic books. Like, I feel like it's a character that we created, and that's even more powerful, right? Because what I pray is that there are going to be a bunch of different Ryan Wilders as time goes on. Like, I don't want this to be the end of this major, like, of this character. I want that when they bring Batwoman back in films, she's Ryan. Why not? You know? Or, you know, and I do know that I do appreciate the Kate Kane story as well. I just want to make sure that we don't lose our Ryan story. I think that that's beautiful.
And a double Batwoman story with Kate and Ryan solving crime.
That would be dope.
That'd be a great movie.
And please, it would end all the silly back and forth. Like,
Yes.
Let's just do it together.
Have you noticed any differences in how fans respond worldwide?
Oh my God, yeah. I think international fans are my favorite. Like, I want to go to Brazil just so I can see them.
Everybody says Brazil. Yeah.
Yes, Brazil turns up. Yeah, I love the international fans. Puerto Rico isn't technically international, but it's just to show like the impact. I think I have a very normal voice, but I was in the car with Karen, and the guy in the front seat was like, "Man, you sound just like that woman." I was like, "Hey, that's me." So it's like, that's really cool that it's making that kind of impact. You know what I mean? That no matter where we are, we can still like touch the people.
That's so cool.